I can't think of another Pokemon card set that has a history as rich as the Vending series. It has incredible artwork, some of which is still exclusive to 1998 Japan, and some of these cards have defined a generation of 90s kids. This innovative and interactive set even allowed kids to mail in their Pokemon to evolve them, mirroring the in-game trading experience, something that couldn't be done nowadays. While modern day Pokemon cards are fantastic, nothing compares to the Vending series of 1998, a true masterpiece of vintage Pokemon. You likely already know that Pokemon began in Japan in 1996. The trading card game was released in October of that year, and the rest is history. As a trading card game, players are always looking to get the newest cards so they can build decks and compete both competitively and casually. The first expansion pack to be released was called Base Set, but that's our dumb English name for it. In Japan, it was quite literally called Expansion Pack. Later that year, Jungle, Mystery of the Fossils, and Rocket Gang were released. More expansion packs would be released the following year, and to this day, honestly, we are still getting new expansion packs. But in 1998 Japan, a new method was created to distribute the expansion sheets. That's right, sheets. A huge part of Japanese culture is gachapon machines, and actually these machines that distribute a capsule with a random toy inside is what inspired the Pokeball. By 1998, Bandai had actually already distributed Pokemon cards through vending machines, but they couldn't maintain a market position up against the actual official TCG. Media Factory, who was in charge of Pokemon cards in Japan at the time, decided to make an expansion sheet, and these would be distributed via vending machines. There are 3 different vending series sheets. We have Series 1, which is blue, Series 2, red, and Series 3, green. So you actually had to peel the cards off of this expansion sheet. They came out of the vending machine, and Series 1 and 2 had 3 cards per sheet, and then some damage counters that you could also peel off. But Series 3 had 4 cards. They went away with the damage counters and instead added a bonus card with a unique back on it. And let's just take a moment to appreciate this back because it's really, really cool. If they made this some sort of an illustration rare today, I'm sure it would be a huge chase card. This is an actual expansion sheet from Series 3, and you can see that it's remained unpeeled after all these years. So the way these sheets work is that each sheet has an area, and this represents one of the areas in Kanto, the region from the original Game Boy games. And the sheets were released in a similar order as the player would actually progress through the games. So Series 1, otherwise known as Blue, was released in March 1998 and features areas from the first half of the original games. So for example, sheets 1, 2, and 3 are from Area 1, Professor Oak's lab, and feature the Kanto starters, as well as some friends that you'll find in the area. And the next area is Viridian Forest, where you can find bug Pokemon and of course Pikachu. Series 1 features 6 areas, with 3 sheets per area, for a total of 18 sheets. Each sheet has 3 Pokemon, but some repeat, so Series 1 has a total of 36 unique cards to collect. Series 2 is the red sheet, released in June 98, 3 months after Series 1. The first area is Rock Tunnel and features Pokemon like Sandshrew, Onix, and Machop. Just like Series 1, Series 2 has 36 unique cards to collect, spread across 18 different sheets. And you can find the legendary birds in Series 2 in their respective areas, Power Plant, Seafoam Islands, and Victory Road. Series 3 was released 5 months later in November of 98, and it's a little bit different than Series 1 and 2. Series 3 is green but still has 18 sheets, but has 4 cards per sheet. So that's a total of 53 unique cards to collect from Series 3. And if we flip over the Series 3 sheet that I have, we can see which area the sheet is from, which is Cerulean Cave. And in the bottom right, we can see sheet number 14. So a quick search will tell me that sheet 14 has Kadabra, Hypno, and Sandslash. And Series 3 is where things get interesting. We'll talk about the extra cards soon, but for now I want to talk about the Bill's PC pass card. See, this is actually the only pass card ever made, and it can't be used in the trading card game. It's actually used in, well, real life. So upon the release of Series 3, Media Factory ran an evolution campaign through till April 30th of the following year. And you could send in one of your cards and have that Pokemon evolve, but you had to send it in with the Bill's PC pass card. By the way, in a cruel twist of fate and sort of a butterfly effect, the Bill's PC pass card is now one of the rarest vending machine cards there are, because when you sent it in, well, you didn't get it back. But only some Pokemon could evolve: Abra, Machoke, Graveler, Haunter, or Omanyte, oddly enough. The card you mail in could be from any set, such as the 1996 set expansion pack, so any Machoke would do, any Omanyte would do. So then Media Factory would send back an evolved version of your Pokemon, like Machamp for example, but these cards are a little bit different. They're printed on non-glossy cardstock, and they're also holofoils. Now, some would argue that these cards don't really technically belong to the vending series, since they didn't come out of vending machines and they weren't on the sheets, and they really just refer to them as promos, or more specifically, Misaki promos. Misaki is the Japanese name for Bill. The way the vending series imitates a playthrough of the original Game Boy games is incredible. It's not only creative, but it's just so interesting too. The bond between the TCG and the video games has never been tighter than this. Oh, and I should also mention the unnumbered vending series sheet. This was available at the World Hobby Fair in Japan in December '97. This sheet had Pikachu, Mewtwo, and Mew on it, and a lot of collectors refer to this as Vending Series 0, as this was sort of a promotional campaign to, well, promote the vending series before it actually came out. And I hinted at this earlier, but these cards were printed on glossy cardstock, so they are very, very glossy, but you might come across some that are non-glossy. In December '98, the Quick Starter gift set was released. This was a product with two 30-card decks, so half decks, and this was designed to teach kids how to play Pokemon. Now, these half decks were pretty much made up of vending series reprints, but these cards are non-glossy, and they also are missing the rarity symbol. On top of that, some of them are holofoils. So again, some would argue that these don't belong to the vending series. And so that small Pokeball set symbol on these cards, it's kind of a rogue symbol because it doesn't just belong to the vending series. It's also found on some Korokoro promos, the CD promos, the mail-in promos, and also the Quick Starter gift set cards. Now it's time to take a closer look at some of these cards. The extra cards from Series 3 consist of extra rules, deck lists, and the pass card. Okay, I lied earlier, so there's actually more than one pass card. That wasn't the only one ever. A handful of the extra cards are spoof cards. They're real cards, but they're made to be jokes. Imakuni's pass card is making fun of Bill's PC pass card. And one you might recognize here is Uyama's Pikachu. These are awesome to collect, and they are some of the more niche pieces of Pokemon card history. The extra rule cards aren't played during the game, but rather before the game. They add a rule to either speed the game up or just make it more interesting and fun. The deck list cards are basically recipe cards to build a deck designed by Media Factory. There's 5 in total and represent different areas of the Kanto region. The unpeeled sheet I have has the Cerulean deck list on it. But what the vending series is really known for is artwork. And a bunch of these cards were adapted into English as Wizards Black Star promos. And if Wizards of the Coast never lost their license to distribute Pokemon cards in North America, then it's likely that we would have seen all of the vending series come over as Black Star promos eventually. But as we all know, that didn't happen. And as a result, a lot of these cards were never actually seen by the rest of the world. During the intro of this video, I compared the original vending series Caterpie against the newest illustration rare Caterpie from Pokemon 151. But it's much more interesting to compare Kasubi's artwork over time and see how it has evolved, but somehow still feels the same and true to Pokemon. The artists were tasked with transforming the simple, pixelated areas of the original game into stunning full-fledged artworks. Witnessing these abstract, minimalist Game Boy environments evolve into breathtaking, detailed illustrations is a testament to the artist's creativity and skill. It's a beautiful metamorphosis that brings the nostalgic charm of the original game to life in vibrant, captivating detail. Another notable piece here is Charmander, illustrated by Atsuko Nishida, who also did one of my favorite pieces in this set, Articuno. The Squirtle by Kagamaru Himeno is absolutely unparalleled, and the Poliwrath is... That reminds me, CoroCoro Comic held an illustration contest from late 97 to early 98. 4 of the finalists got their artwork featured on vending series cards: Poliwhirl, Snorlax, Mr. Mime, and Mewtwo. By the way, the winners each got a copy of this card as an award. Some of my other favorite illustrations are ones that have this really authentic hand-drawn look to them, and then there's a handful of more abstract illustrations that I just fall in love with every time I look at them. I don't think there's a set of Pokemon cards with a deeper and more meaningful history than this one. Many of these cards have famously become icons of vintage Pokemon and collecting, while others have been buried by time and remain in Japan, unseen and unpeeled for all these years. Maybe the art isn't as compelling, maybe the card isn't as shiny, but when you hold it in your hand, you can feel something that was lost many years ago.